So guys, please unmute yourself if you want to speak. The reason for that is we want to have an interactive session because the more you talk, the more I will speak. The more you ask, the more you will get. As simple as that. Unless you put effort, joining this session will not help, right? Only you can make change for yourself. So we want to have an interactive session. It doesn't matter if you are giving the wrong answer. We are not here to judge or we are not here to test anyone, right? We are all here to learn. So, okay, if you want to simplify things, I want to do something like here.
Yeah, can I just
So if you
ask you
see something
something?
like this, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and the thing is, I'm not from IT background. So can you just please walk us walk through the course content and if this is suitable for me? I have no IT background.
Okay, do you? So that's absolutely fine. Do you know what any idea about Active Directory?
No, not at all. That is the reason I'm asking if it is suitable for me.
Okay. Okay. So one thing what we can do is you can do a practice lab at PSF, right? They will guide you on creating Active Directory, means installing a Windows server in the lab, right? For your basic understanding. So we will start from basic, obviously, but if you go to the lab, right, then you will be able to understand it very easily. So when I say easily means the background of it, how it works, right? Those things. I will be able to explain to you from Exchange Online point of view. We will do cover at AD for some components. So basically, for Exchange Online, it won't be a problem for you. But when you go for interviews, right, they will ask you certain questions related to AD, like how to create a user. So we will be telling you how to create a user in AD, how to create a user in Exchange Online, and how to create in Exchange on-prem. But for I would refer or I will prefer you also going to the lab at the PSF center, right, to take their help to understand how to install a Windows server, right, how to prepare your Active Directory. So you will be doing hands-on on-prem. For Exchange Online, uh, I'll be sharing with you details of how to create a test domain or a test trial tenant, which will be available for 30 days. So for 2 weeks, you'll have to create 2 test tenants because after 30 days, the trial will expire. So I will go with the basics. If you feel you were not able to understand something, we will connect offline. Or if anyone feels that they have questions after this session, we can connect on Monday, and I'll try my level best to make yourself understand what we are talking about. Right? So I'll be moving between the multiple screens. So I request every one of you, the moment you are not able to see the screen, let me know, because right now I'm on a client machine. I will be moving to AD server. I will be moving to Exchange server to show you the difference between the recipient types, creation of recipient types, right? Uh, so we may need to share the screen again and again. Right? Unfortunately, we are not using Teams, or else it would have been a problem. But I see that the moment we move to another machine, you guys are not able to uh, see the next. Okay, so that's a humble request. Please raise your voice if you're not able to see this. Right now, is everybody? Is that answer your question?
Yes. Let me. No problem. I'll just stick around for now.
Sure.
Let me see. If I have anything, I'll
Yeah,
just let you
sure.
know.
Absolutely. Brothers and sisters who have joined, please let me know the moment you're not able to understand, right? Because it is a possibility that what you didn't understand, the other people might not have been, but you have the courage of raising it. Right? I really appreciate asking questions, and I'll be happy to get more questions. Okay, so for now, everyone has an email ID, right?
Yes.
Please, you can put your thumbs up, something like that, so that I know, okay, I am getting answer for this. So everyone has an email ID. So what are the requirements of an email ID? Can someone tell me? if you want to enter or open your mailbox, mailbox is something wherein your emails are coming, right? So in order to open your mailbox, you need an email ID. So in order to log into the mailbox, apart from email ID, you need password, right? Is it right?
Yes.
Yes, no, maybe. Okay. So now, in order to use a mailbox, what you need a user, right? You need a user, you need a password for that user as well. If, for example, if you're logging to your laptop or to your desktop, if you have create an account, right, for yourself. So for example, normally we create an account. We create an admin account, we create a test account. Is everyone comfortable in English? Anyone, any brother, sister who
Yes, we
wants
are.
me to speak in Hindi? Okay, great. Okay, so far it's clear that to log into a machine or to log into your desktop or even on your mobile, you have something for authentication, right? Authentication means confirming that you are the person who wants to log into your mobile or who wants to log into your machine. It's just like a
Agree.
key which we use
Yes.
to open the locks, right? So
Yes,
far,
sir.
everyone is on the same page. Okay. So when I log into my machine or to any interface which is dependent on Active Directory, right? We have to log on using our user principal name. In Exchange term, we call primary SMTP address. So user principal name, which is also known as UPN, right? In 99% of the scenario, we suggest customer to have the UPN and the primary SMTP address as same. We'll talk in detail what is the UPN, what is primary SMTP address. Okay. So I'll be sharing with you in each session articles, right? So that you can go through them after this session. And I will also let you know the shortcuts for them. So when I say shortcuts, means which one is good, and I'll also give you details about that. So where is the chat? Chat. You guys are still with me? Can you see on the screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Can someone type in the chat like hi or something like that? Yeah, we have. So I hope these are links. Okay, give me a few minutes. We have to copy this. Copy link. Okay, so these are the links in details which talks about today's topic. If during my session anyone feel that I am moving fast, please stop me. I have a tendency of going with the flow. So please let me know if you feel I am a little fast. Okay. So we'll open this article. It is a very good article. It's a third-party article. When we say third-party, it is not a Microsoft article. Okay, that's the meaning of third-party. So you will be listening about this from me on regular basis. Third-party. If I say supported article, it is Microsoft article. Okay. The reason I'm taking this one is because it shows symbol, right? It shows graphics. So we don't want to go with just text. We want to go with graphics, right? So let's go to the point. Okay. Now this is what I was mentioning regarding UPN, user principal name. If you, this is the abbreviation which you should be hearing from me. You should be hearing from IT professional. So normally people speak whenever you are troubleshooting on an issue, or whenever you are creating a user, or you have been asked to create a user, you'll be hearing this abbreviation like create a UPN for this. This is the UPN for this user, and it is same as your primary SMTP address, or this is the UPN and this is the primary SMTP address, right? That's what you will be hearing most of the time. Now, every UPN or primary SMTP address is divided in two parts. If you see, you can see on the screen, the left part is called alias. It's just like we have a nickname, right? So, like for me, my nickname is Javed, right? So you may be having other nickname for yourself, means which is your pet name, we can say. So in UPN, why we say alias is because your name will be quite big. For example, my name is Muhammad Hafiz Muhammad Khan, right? So it's too big to be entered into an alias. It's very into a UPN. It's very difficult for another person to remember my full name, right? So if I tell to you my email address is Muhammad Hafiz Muhammad Khan at live.com, as an example. So you will be like, oh God, so big name, right? And there may be people who may be having bigger name than this, right? So there is a limitation on how much name, or how much big your name can be, or in short, how many characters are allowed in a UPN or in an email address, right? By default, we say around 32 characters. In some scenario, it will be 16 characters, depending on how you have configured your environment. So normally we take 16 characters, right? 16 characters include special character, which is like underscore, dot, or hyphen, right? These are called special characters. Now, if you see over here, if, as I mentioned, if you have a big name, it's very difficult to understand. Even if you put on your card, right, it will look like a website. Oh, so big. Is it like a website, or is it a UPN, or is it an email address which you're giving to me? So in order to save that, in order to save the space, or in order to save or be inclined with the restrictions we have for UPN or email address, we will go for a short name, right? So your name is picked how you have entered your name for your ID creation. When I say ID creation, it's your UPN. It's your, if you're creating a username, then it's a UPN only. If you're creating a mailbox, when we say mailbox, if you're going to use it as your email address as well, like logging and getting your emails, then in that case, we said as a mailbox, you need a mailbox. In that scenario, other parameters comes into picture. We'll look into it practically so that you are aware what I'm speaking about. So for now, just remember there are two parts of a UPN or of an email address. One is the alias, which is a shorter version. So you can decide what type of alias you want. Normally, company on the Active Directory, like they decide, okay, the first part and the last part will be the part of the email address or the UPN, or it will be the first part, the first name, and the first character of your surname. So people from Active Directory can decide that, or you can decide that at your end how you want the namespace to be, right? So once it is decided, so for me it's like half escape, right? So that is the first part. At the rate, whenever you have at the rate, right, it means the next part after at rate is your domain. Normally, if you sign up for an email address, right, for Yahoo, Hotmail, Gmail, you decide the first part. The second part is automatically taken from your service provider. So service provider is someone who gives you the service of a mailbox, right? So when we talk about if you're creating an email address for Hotmail, your service provider is Hotmail. If you're creating it for Gmail, your service provider is Gmail. If you're creating an account in Office 365, your service provider is Microsoft. Is that part clear?
Yes,
No,
yes,
maybe.
both.
Okay. So Hafiz K or I'm Hafiz Khan is the first part of my email address @ then it may be live.com or yahoo.com. So in complete, whenever I have to give my email address, right, I have to be giving the complete name, that is the alias @ the domain part, like live.com. For example, if Samir, my address is like Samir @psf.com, right? That's the complete email address. So that's the name I will be giving to my friends, or Samir will be giving to his friends. Okay, if you want to email me, this is my email address, right? So now let's come back to a user part. So we have created a UPN. Now UPN has an alias and it has a domain name suffix. Okay, let me show you some example. I'm logging to my Office 365 portal. Portal is just like a web page, okay? So anything on cloud will be on Microsoft.com. If you have a hybrid environment, in that case, you will be syncing your on-prem users with cloud. In that scenario, you can change the suffix part, that is the domain part, to your domain name. For example, on my on-prem, it is hafiz.com, right? If I'm syncing that, I can change the domain part on Exchange Online to make sure that it's inclined with my on-prem. So I can just click on the drop down and change it to hafiz.com. I'll show you what I mean by that. So right now, just concentrate on what we're speaking about a user. Okay. So if you can see, I have entered my user ID, that my UPN, and I've entered my password. To log into my portal, this is my portal, right? And these are the apps I have, and this is my admin. These are my users. This is my active users, right? So if I want to add a user, I'll just click on add user. I'll put the first name, test. I'll put the last name, Khan. I can select what display name is. By automatic, it will come here. If I want to change it, I can change it. I can just remove the space and put underscore over here. And username, again, it's up to me what I want. So I can just type over here. These are non-case sensitive. Case sensitive means if I'm using a capital letter, every time I have to use a capital letter. It's not like that. If I'm putting test Khan over here I put TS capital and KS capital. It doesn't mean that while logging, I have to make the same way. No, I can just type everything in capital or everything in small letters. The only thing that matters is the password. This is case sensitive, right? Whatever way I'm adding, for example, if I'm adding my password as P capital and all other letters as small letters, right? And then I'm putting any special characters and a character. In that scenario, I have to make sure that the same way I have to remember and the same way I have to enter over there. Now, there are some limitations for creating test name and there are some limitations for creating password, right? So I'll share that links as well with you. So just for your reference, I'm letting you know, as we talked about, your display name or your UPN should not be more than 16 characters. That's include your domain suffix. So if you can see over here, I have not put any name over here. It automatically came. I just put test name, my username, what I want, right? And this is what I was speaking about. So you see the default will be on Microsoft.com if you have only a cloud account. Now for my account, I have synced my users using a tool called AD-Sync, which is Microsoft tool, to sync all my users from on-prem to cloud. That's the reason you see my on-prem domain name over here, right? Otherwise, you will only see on Microsoft.com. So this name I have got while registering my tenant. We'll talk about that, of how to register tenant in the next class. If time permits, we'll talk today. If not, then tomorrow class we'll talk about it. Now, this part is clear, the domain part. Any question on this? Okay, can anyone tell me if I'm only having a cloud account, I don't have an AD, pure cloud account, then what will be my domain suffix? Will it be on Microsoft.com or something else?
Cloud.com. I think.
Anyone else? Good try.
Username will be the same, but it will be in the store into a cloud storage.
Okay, good try. I'm talking about the domain part, this part. If you see, I have mhkonprem.com, then I have team US hafiz.onmicrosoft.com. So I'm more focused on this part. Will it be on Microsoft.com or it will be .cn?
.cm might.
Let me explain this. Okay, good try. Anyone else? So guys, humble request, please be very attentive when I'm speaking. Because the moment you miss, you might miss some important information, and going forward, you will be not able to understand further, right? Definitely we'll have refresher sessions, but I request every one of you to be attentive. And once we have a confirmation of how many people we have in the batch, we will divide our batches into 5 group each, a group of 5 people each, with one being the team leader, right? So as I spoke, after 2 hours, you will need to do practice, right? So you can form a group and discuss on it and help your colleagues. So if there is some questions which you are not able to understand or you're still stuck, we can discuss it on Sunday or we can discuss it on Monday. Is that fair enough?
Yep.
Yeah. So Samir Bhai will help you with the group formation. Okay, I'm coming back to the topic. Now, what is a domain? Right? Why do we say domain? You need a domain, you need a domain. Right? How important is the domain? Consider domain to be as important as your state. So for example, you have your home address, right? It may be your rented or it may be your own. So you specify, okay, this is my flat number or room number. This is my floor number. This is my building, or this is my bungalow. This is my area. For example, I stay in Tolichoki, so I'll say Tolichoki, and this is my state, Telangana. Right? This is my city, Hyderabad. So this information we have, right? This is how I will give, or I will want my mails to coming to me. And when I say mail, I mean postal email. Like for example, documentation, or if I want to receive any sort of parcel, right? This is what I have to give to my vendors. For example, to Amazon, to my Zomato guy, so on and so forth, right? Similarly, on the internet, in order to represent a group, right? In order to represent a person, you need to have an identity. The first part of that identity is your domain. So when we say that I am having email address of on hotmail.com. So hotmail.com is the domain. It already has a presence on your internet. That domain has an IP address attached to it. An IP address is a number, a numerical number in a specific format, 32-bit format with 3 characters or 3 numbers. It's only numbers, 3 numbers in each format. That is which is available on the internet. So if for example, if I'm going to my command prompt, CMD is my command prompt. If I type in ipconfig, right, and if I say hotmail.com, right, it will give me an error. Why is it giving me an error? Because I'm just mentioning ipconfig hotmail.com, right? I have to specify what I basically need. I have to give an IP address over here. So if I say ipconfig, simply ipconfig, right? By running this command, it will let me know what is the IP. And IP, just like for we to understand each other, we need name, right? For computers to understand each other, it uses an IP. It uses an IP address, right? So when I click on ipconfig, it tells me, okay, brother, this is your details. Give it very type. Yeah, it is. So Windows IP configuration. This is the connection DNS, domain name server. This is the IPv6. There are two forms of IP address. One is IPv4 and IPv6. The below one, if you see IPv4, is this is the format. This is in numerical format. IPv6 is in alphanumerical format. The reason for IPv6 is because we were going short with IP addresses on the internet. That's the reason we came up with IPv6. Now, to understand what I mean by IP addresses, what are the class of IP addresses? If you guys are not aware, I'll share with you an article. You can go through it. So as you know, for now, IP address is something which represent a machine on the internet. It represents a domain on the internet. So if I put ns lookup, and now I put hotmail.com, right? So it will search, right? It will search for hotmail.com. It will see which server it reach out to get the details. What was the address of the server? What is this domain, hotmail.com, and how I can reach to it? This is the IP address. So when we are communicating with each other, when we are talking to each other, just remember, if you have an email address, right, telling the person the IP address of your domain part, how difficult it is, right? It will like M Hafiz Khan at 204.79.197.210 or 212, right? Our memory is not that sharp to remember this IPs. And just imagine you have 3-4 email addresses in different service providers, how difficult it will be. So though computers or though on internet, everything works on IP, for human facility, we are using the domain name. So this becomes the domain name, right? A domain name can be com, which means it's commercial. It can be edu, which means it is educational. It can be org, which means organization. Like an organization can be business. It can be like institute as well. It just like PSF. It can be government organization. It can be any sort of profit or non-profit organization, right? So second part is the org, that is org is for that. And then you have .in, .us, which means it is for country, IN for India, US for United States, and so on. Then you also see one we talked about was com, which is commercial. Then we talked about edu, that is educational organization. Then we have gov. So why do we have this different name conversation? So I'm talking about something after this dot, right? Every domain name will have two parts. First is the name, and the second part is the type of organization it is, or type of domain that is, right? So that's how you identify a domain on the net. You can't just have Hafiz Khan @Hotmail, right? We have to specify what Hotmail, what type of business is it, what type of domain is this? Is it a commercial domain? Is it educational domain? Is it an organization domain? So to get this domain has been purchased by the company, right? It's not a free domain. When you register your domain, you have to pay some money for that. And when you register a domain, that domain will have an IP. So for example, GoDaddy is one of the domain provider. So if you register your business or you register your domain with GoDaddy, you will say, okay, I want my domain to be Hafiz Khan, right? So they will check if that name is available or not. If not available, they will say, okay, Hafiz 123 is available, or M Hafiz Khan 123 is available, so on and so forth. So once you register your domain, your GoDaddy will provide an IP, right? and that will make your identity on the internet. So after that, other things comes. So I create my on-prem server, or I buy Office by subscription. I say this is my domain, and you verify your domain to just make sure you own that domain. We'll talk about all those things while creating a tenant, right? For now, just understand what is the domain. Is that clear? What is the domain? Anyone on the call who still have any doubt?
No, no, no.
Okay, so no, right? Okay, so if you have doubt, you can click on the chat and let me know what doubts you have, right? We'll talk about it. I'll also share with you some articles of what we have spoken. I'll just make a note of it so that I don't forget. The reason I'm taking this because I understand there are people on the call who might not be from IT background. So just to make them understand, I'm going a little slow, and I'll be sending you articles on this. So I won't be going in depth of what is Class A, Class B, Class C, Class D type of IP addresses, or what are they used for, right? Just on a overall type A, Class A, I would say this is not type A, basically Class A, Class B, Class C, Class D, and Class E. Class A is used for public IP. When I say public, it is available for everyone, right? The command prompt which we ran now, this 204, right? This is the Class B IP. Class A starts from something called with 10 and so on, right? Then we have Class C IP. Class C and Class B are for public. Class C is for private use. It start with 192 and so on. Class D, Class C and Class D, the only difference between them is the range over them. And Class E is reserved for experimental purpose. So I won't be going in much detail, otherwise it will eat up our time. But definitely I'll share with you this article, so you can go through it. Samir bhai, do we have an email address for this group? So that will become much easier for me.
No, there is no email. If you want, we can create email.
Okay, or so how if yeah, let's create an email address for the entire group so that we can share the articles over there. It's just simpler because I'm putting everything in chat. I'm not sure if next time it we connect, right? This chat won't be available. That's what I believe, because I'm not a user of Zoom, to be very honest.
Okay.
Right? I
Then
still
we can
consider
create.
myself as a learner. No one, yeah, thank you. So there is, as mentioned, there is age for, and you are a learner until you end grave. Something or other you will be learning every day. And to keep yourself young, you have to keep learning. Okay, coming back to a topic. So now everyone understand, right? So on internet, everything is numbers. For our facility, we are converting that numbers to name, right? So we have an A address, which is an IP address mapped to a domain name, right? So when I say 24.79.197.211.212, this is the IP which is mapped to the domain name hotmail.com. So if I put over here Gmail, you'll see the difference over here. So if I put over here Gmail or just google.com, right? So these are the IPs of google.com. If you see, these are different than what we have for hotmail.com. Similarly, if you type for yahoo.com, if you see, these are different IPs. So these are the IPs which are added to the domain. You see multiple IPs for load balancing. In case one IP doesn't work, second IP will work. If second doesn't work, the third IP will work. Just to make sure there is continuity of business, or in other terms, there is a failover mechanism available or a DR available. DR means disaster recovery. You'll be hearing regarding these terms, disaster recovery or failback, right? Please make yourself aware of these terms. Maybe you can make a note of them in your notepad, in your Word document, whichever you feel comfortable, or in your OneNote. I prefer OneNote because it becomes very simple for me to organize it. Okay. So far, we are good, right? So we understood what is the meaning of a domain part, right? The types of domain we have. Let me put over here. Come back. So now this is my domain parts. So always remember, when I have a cloud account, I will be only having on Microsoft. The first part is one which I gave. The second part is one which my domain provider gave, or which my service provider gave, which I can't change, right? So on Microsoft.com, if I type over here and let's look up, right? I see the name, I see the API, and this is my server. idc.internal.cloudapp.net. This is when I see my server, this is the name of my client. This is where it is hosted on Cloud App, right? On Azure. Okay. So everyone is on the same page that when you create a cloud account, or when you create, in fact, when you create an Office 365 subscription, and if you are only on cloud, right, you have not registered your domain, in that scenario, you will be only having on Microsoft.com account, right? Or if you're just having a pure cloud with no domain registration like MHK on-prem.com, in that case, you will be only having on Microsoft.com. Again, I'm repeating, for a pure cloud without a domain registration, for example, when we create a test trial, right, or a tenant trial tenant, we are only going to get on Microsoft.com. The first part, like Team US Office, that is what you will decide based on availability. Again, if that name is taken by someone else, you'll have to choose a different name. And on Microsoft.com will be fixed. So for a pure cloud trial tenant, can anyone tell me what will be the name, the domain name? Will it be on Microsoft.com or it will be something else? Can anyone tell me that? Was it not clear? Okay. Can everyone see my screen, right? This is what I type for a pure cloud environment wherein I don't have my own tenant. I mean, I don't have my own domain. It is a trial tenant or for my business. I don't mind using on Microsoft account. I don't need to spend 4,000, 5,000, or X number of amount based on what type of uh, organization or type of domain I'm buying, like .com or .org or .in. I'm fine with on Microsoft.com, or it's my trial tenant. I don't need to spend any money. I'll use on Microsoft.com account. So by default, when I create test tenant, I'll be getting on Microsoft.com. Is it clear what do you mean by this? So for Cloud Office 365 account, you will be getting on Microsoft.com, even if you have purchased your domain, right? By default, you will be having your email address stamped with on Microsoft.com. We'll talk about that in details once we create a mailbox. For now, let's talk about the test account. So now I have a test display name created. I have a test name created. I have to provide a password. Now for password, there are limitations. Password should be within 8 and 16 characters. Again, you can define that how many characters you want to have. A password should have a capital a letter. It should be a capital letter. It should be having a small letter. It should be having numbers. It should be having special characters. So when we say special characters, underscore, dot and @ these two special characters normally we should avoid. We can have dot, but we cannot have @ right? Because @ this symbol, this is called @. Okay, this A with the circle is called @. So we cannot have @ in our name. We can have @ in a password, right? We can have dot in a password. So in password, any special character is allowed. Sorry, I missed that. So in password, every character is allowed. In username, @ is not allowed. I can have test.con. I can't have test@.con. If you see, the moment I put that, it will say you can only add letters, numbers, and following special characters, underscore, dash, single quotes, and period. You see this? This is what you can have in your username. So the moment I remove this, I can't put a comma as well. See this? I can't put a hyphen. It takes. If I put underscore, it takes. The moment I put comma, it will not take. The moment I put semicolon, it will not take. The moment I take @ it will not take. So it will let you know what it take, what it will not take. Now, if you say automatically create a password, that password will be created and the email will be sent to the user, right? If it doesn't have an email, you have to specify what email address you will be using. So normally what the admin will do, if you are an admin, you will select automatically create a password. And if you say this option will not be available. So automatically create a password, then you have an option of require the user change their password in the first login. In normal scenario, we'll select this, and then we'll say set password in the email upon completion. Right? This is what you will select here. It will ask for an email address, right? So once this user is created, this admin or whichever email address you mentioned will be getting an email address with the username and password. So next time when the user login, he will be asked to change the password. So for now, for simplicity, let us not say automatically create a password. Let's recreate a password. So I'm putting 1234 @ABCD as an example, right? Or I can put anything. I can put password or welcome, whatever I mean. You should not be sharing your password with anyone, just like your OTP. Okay. The moment I entered a number, the moment I alphabets, one capital letter and one special characters, it will say strong. The moment I remove any one of them, right? For example, I remove a special character. The moment I remove a special character, it says weak, right? So it will let you know whether it's a weak password or whether it's a strong password. Is it understood? Okay, now I'm creating a user. For now, I don't want to go into license detail. We'll talk about that in the next session. So this is pure cloud environment. It has nothing to do with your AD. You don't need a Windows server. You don't need any environment. It's purely cloud, right? And I say create a user without a product license. Next. This is the pure user. So when you create a user, you in a cloud, you have option whether you want it to be a user or you want to be an administrator. Administrator is someone who has the authority on all the users. He can make all the changes throughout the environment. There are a level of administrator. We'll talk about that in the later sessions, not for today or tomorrow. We'll leave it for next session. Then profile info is like if you want to enter like job title, like for example, IT, or you will say agent, department, IT. If office you want to mention like Hyderabad, like then these are other things we can mention. Let's say street addresses. Again, these are optional. So anything which you see without a star is optional. You don't need to enter it. Even if I don't enter it, I'll show you that. I can enter it later on, but in offices, in business, you need to enter this. I'll just say I don't want this. I'll click next. Now, if you see, it will show me, okay, what I have. This is my display name. This is my UPN, user principal name. I have a custom password, means I have created my own password. I don't have a license assigned to it. And I am a user, right? I have not updated any profile. If I want, I can make the changes. I'll click finish adding. The moment I do this, I have a user created. Now this is a pure user. This is a user with just the UPN and with a password so that I can log in, right? I don't have any services. These are the templates I have. So I'll say, okay, everything good. I'll close it. So now if I want to search, I'll just search over here test. So I have over here test Khan, right? So this is my user, this is my account, this is my signing information. So my username, it's a manage username. Okay, I want to make changes. I'll say I'll manage my user. So I can make the changes. Like I can change the display name if I want. I can change the domain part if I have registered a domain. Okay, otherwise it will be Microsoft on Microsoft.com only. Any question on user creation? Anyone on the call?
No.
No.
Okay. So now you saw how we create a user on cloud. Now let's see how we create a user on AD. Okay. I may have to switch my machine. From here. Just give me 2 minutes. I'll be Few minutes. I need to enable remote desktop. It's on. Check the RDP. Give a couple of minutes. Hmm. 5 seconds. Okay, so we are logging in now. So this is my domain controller, my Active Directory server, everything. Okay, this is the name of my server. This is the domain I have connected to. So let's start with yeah. So we need to connect to dsa.msc. to make, again, this is something, if you're on cloud, you don't need this. It is in the background. This is what happens in the background. So this is my domain, mhkonfirm.com. These are my users, and this many users I have. The process is the same for user creation. I'll create on, sorry, I've created a user. I'll have to click over here, right click on the user, create new, right? These are the top types of recipients I have. I have computer, contact, group, interlock, person, so and so. You don't have to remember all this. We'll just create a user. We'll talk about this later on when we talk about recipients. So if you see the difference, it's almost the same. It asks for first name. I can't have the same name, so I'll put test2 Khan because this is synced to my cloud. It will give an error. Okay, so test2 is, I'll put over here initials. I can put Khan again. Khan over here. So if you see, this is my policy. So the moment I put over here M, let me put over here Khan. So in my full name, I have the first part, my initials and my surname, right? User logon, again, I can decide on this. So I can put test2 just to format uniformity. I'm just using the first and the first character of which word as capital. So if you see, the moment I put over here, it says my login name, the user logon name. This is the name which I will be logging. This is the domain which I'll be logging, right? Now, why is domain important? Because you have an account in hotmail.com. You have not created an account in yahoo.com. You can't create use yahoo.com services, right? So that's how you are defined. Okay, this is my domain. I have an account in hotmail.com. So my my email provider is hotmail.com. I have my services available on hotmail.com, right? So that is the part. And now this is my on-prem server, right? So my on-prem server needs a domain because I need an identity on the internet, or I want my users to be grouped into one big organization or in one big common boundary, right? In other terms, so like a colony or like a country, whatever you can say. So in that scenario, MHK on-prem is the one we talked about. If you remember, we talked about hotmail.com. We talked about the presence of that name on the internet, right? So if you see, if I type over here, you can still see my screen, right?
Yes.
Hello guys, are you there with me, or yeah, you can still see my screen, right? Okay.
Yes.
So if you feel that's going something beyond a bouncer, let me know. I'll stop and I'll try to explain in a better way. So if you see, if I type over here NSLOOKUP is basically a networking tool to get the IP address of the domain you're trying to search. Okay, so if I put over here mhk onprem.cm, right? So this is my IP address. The reason why I am, so right now I'm connecting through command prompt on this machine. So I'm connecting to this IP. If I'm connecting from outside, right? So I mean, when I say outside at my domain. So I'm not connected to my domain, right? In that scenario, I'll be connecting externally. So when I type over there, if I'm getting the IP, it means my IP is available on the internet. It's routable. This is whenever you are able to search something on the internet, we say that is a routable ID, or that's a routable domain, or it's a routable domain namespace. Okay. So let's come back to a topic. So I enter this, I'll click next. I'll enter my password over here. For example, welcome at one. As an example, I'll put user change the password next login. So next time when the user login, he has to change the password. Then when I say user cannot change the password, it means any password policy if you have. Ideally, company keep a password policy so that it's very difficult for a hacker or an intruder to hack your account. So normally a company will say, okay, reset your password after 30 days or reset your password after 90 days. Reset means you'll have to provide a new password. Otherwise, you will not be able to log in after 90 days of service or after 30 days of service, whichever password policy you have designed. But if you say password never expire, it will never ask you to reset the password. An account is disabled means you will not be able to log into this account. This account is only used for service purpose, as an example. But no user can log in or log into the machine using this account. That is the meaning of disabled account. That's normally we do in a shared mailbox. Next we'll do for next. Now it will give us what are the things we have over here, and the moment we click on finish, it is done, right? So I can search my user. Fine. Just we did over there. Just press test. Let's see how many test users we have. So this many test users we have. This is the one we just created, test2 mh.com. If you see over here, these are called properties of the account, and these are the attributes, or I will say the information we have. For example, for address or tabs, basically. So we have address tab, we have account. This is the account we created. This is the profile. This is telephone details, organization details, member of this user is a member of how many groups and all those things. That we'll talk again in detail. So far, simple thing. Are you guys able to understand what a user account is and how to create it? In
Yes,
background,
of course.
as we created in AD, right? As we have created this account in AD, similarly, we create in Exchange Online. You don't have to remember your AD server. You don't have to connect to right to users and services or DSA.MSC service to create a user. Once you are in MS Exchange Online, we create that for you, right? So in the backend, everything will be done by your Exchange Online service. Okay. Yeah, I don't need the server now. Minimize this. So if I click on this account, test account, this is what I see. The same way, this is my account created. I don't have any licenses. I don't have mailbox assigned to it. User doesn't have an Exchange Online license. In other terms, if you go to AD, we have just the user. We have not assigned any license to it, or we have not created a mailbox to it. So when we say assign license, what license does is it creates a user mailbox, and based on license, it add other services. We talked about licensing maybe in the next class. Okay, so let's stick to our topic. So today, right now, we just talked about username or user creation. Anyone who has any doubts on this? Anyone on the call?
Yeah, just one thing. You have what is the relation between the both? Can you just explain?
Go ahead.
You have created the user account in Active Directory and this in Microsoft 365, correct? So what is the relation? Can you just?
Okay. Absolutely. So when I create a user in cloud, right? What I have done, have I gone to any services? No, I just went to this web, just a web page for me, right? I created add a user, right? I entered this data and the user was created. So when I'm creating a user over here, at the backend, what is happening? At the backend on the AD, there is a script which runs. That script means just a small program which runs in the backend as soon as I fill this and create. At the backend on the AD server, it will do the same thing what we just did now. Right. So if you have a user in on-prem, this is the process. You don't have a user in on-prem, you only have a user in cloud. So you are just manually creating or just adding details over here. And in the backend on Azure in Microsoft Cloud, for this domain, a user is created. So basically, a user is an entry to your service. A user is an entry to your mailboxes. So the relation between them is, this is just like people who are aware of scripting, right? This is your front end, and back end is the process what we just did on the AD server.
Okay,
So
okay.
in
Now I
on
get it.
basically whatever we are entering over here, we are entering it on cloud.
Okay,
Got
this
it,
is
right?
for cloud. That is
Okay.
for on-premises server. You are saying.
We are creating a user. Correct, correct. So even though we are creating this on cloud, at the back end, the process is the same, right? Because you cannot create a user without an AD. So when we say cloud, what is the meaning of that? Means our Windows server, our AD, our domain controller, our Exchange server, whatever servers we need to build on-prem, it's already there in cloud, and we are using that services. So when we buy license, basically we are paying for that service, which we are using for Microsoft, from Microsoft, right? So when I'm creating a user, I'm creating a user on my domain or on my admin center, but at the back end, it is created on a domain for me. Is that much clear now?
Yes.
Or was it more confusion?
I understood
You
that
want me
this
to
is for
explain
the.
or you got it?
No, I got it. This is for the cloud, and that is for the server. If you have it on the premises, that's what you mean to say.
Correct. Right, right. If you don't have an on-prem server, you don't have to even go to AD. Just create over here.
Okay. Okay. Got it. Got it.
Got it?
Yes.
Yeah. So we'll talk in further detail once you have created. You have a lab. We started working on an AD part from PSF point of view. I mean, from your lab point of view. Then you'll understand in more detail. But for if you're just purely we are concentrating on cloud only. We'll be touching hybrid. We'll be touching Exchange server, but we will not be going in much detail because we are 90% focus is on cloud, right? So now we created a
Hey,
user.
just one more thing. Just I will
Now
ask.
we'll go to.
Yeah,
Go
you
ahead.
mentioned about Azure also in between regarding for Microsoft Azure. So you will be covering something about that also in this course.
Right. So now, no, Microsoft Azure is completely different. So it's like a different entity altogether. Exchange itself is so vast that getting it into each and every component is very difficult, right? So we'll be talking about all the important components which we have. But yeah, if you have doubt on certain component, we can have an offline discussion and I'll explain to it. But remember one thing, the main reason I mentioned Azure, because anything we are creating, we need a server, right? So where are those servers stored? Those servers are stored on Azure. So when I created this user, basically I have created a user on my DC. Where is my DC hosted? Right? I need to have a physical server where my information will be stored. Where is the server installed? That server is installed on my Hyper-V. That's a virtual server on my physical box. Where is that physical box? It is somewhere in the Azure data center. And in order for me to connect to that physical box, I'm using Azure services. So Azure services will create a virtual machine for me, right? So when I'm meeting, so when we're talking about cloud, we're talking of shared space. I don't have a dedicated machine for me. On my server, I may be having a domain for myself. I may be having a domain. Your domain will also be on the same server, right? So we are sharing the namespace. We are sharing, basically our domain name is different, but we are sharing the same server. We are sharing the same network. We're sharing the same resources. So all the physical resources or all the virtual servers which we will be connecting to are on your Azure. That's the reason I mentioned Azure. So whenever we talk about MSL service, we are connecting to an Azure service, or we are connecting to the Azure in the backend, right? So when we talk about Azure, we are referring to the AD component of Exchange Online. It's not Azure Web Services, or it's not the Azure architecture or the Azure servers together. We are not logging onto the server directly. We are using an interface through which we are connecting to those servers. Is it clear now?
Yes, yes. Yeah.
Okay. So if in case you still have doubt, you can we can discuss on Monday. Okay. Or you can ping me separately. We can discuss on it. Any other question, guys, before we move to recipient types? Okay. So the plan is to go level by level, right? So first, the reason I explained to you user type so that you understand what a user is, what a UPN is, right? So let me close this. So if you can see over here, this is my display name. This is my username. This is my license. So we'll talk about license later on. For now, just concentrate on display name and username. So if you see, my username has @ everywhere, right? Wherever you have a format of an alias and @ and then the domain part, it is called a UPN, a user principal name. A UPN can also be your primary SMTP address. We'll talk about what is primary SMTP address, secondary SMTP address, proxy addresses later on. For now, let's concentrate on what is the user, what is the UPN. Everyone is clear with what the display name is also known as. It can also be your alias. When I say alias, if you remember, I talked the short form of it, right? We'll talk about the alias part once we are talking about mailbox. So one is the display name, one is the alias, which will be similar to your UPN, right? This is also called FQDN, fully qualified domain name, right? Whenever I say team US hafiz.onmicrosoft.com, that's the domain part, right? And this is also called as fully qualified domain name. And if we add the complete email address, it becomes, people may also say, what is the fully qualified, what is the FQDN of your user, or what is your email address, right? When someone talks about what is the user address, what is your UPN, or what is your email address, you have to give this form. The first part called alias and the second part called domain name. We are good with this. Shall we move further?
Yes, sir.
Yes, no, maybe. Okay. So I will request each one of you to go through this article, which I have in front of me. I have shared the link with you guys. Just copy that. If you are on mobile, copy it from your mobile to your laptop. I'll prefer you guys using your laptop or your screen so that you get a bigger view, right? Now, let's talk about the other part. We were talking about email address again and again. So let's talk about email address now. So a UPN can be your email address as well. It can also be your SIP address. SIP address is for Teams, or if you guys are using Skype, earlier it was Skype, and now it is known as Teams. So we will not be talking about SIP addresses for now, but if you're having Skype if you're using Skype for business server in your organization, you have to make sure that your UPN, user principal name, and your primary SMTP address is the same. Otherwise, you will have problem in your Skype for business user. In Teams also it is advisable, but it will still work. But if you're having Skype for business, the UPN and the primary SMTP address should be the same. Now, what is the advantages of having email address and primary SMTP address as the same? Can we have different? Yeah, you can have. But why are we referring to having the same name? Now, you are logging to your domain. Okay, now let me explain what is a domain and a work group. Right. So if I have a single machine, right, I'm not connecting to this to my office network. I'm not connecting this. I don't have a server. I have just a single machine. That machine is called a work group machine. Work group machine means it doesn't have, if you want to connect to a network, if you want to connect two machines together, you don't need any servers. You can connect this to network by joining a work group, right? That is called a work group machine. If you are not using any network, a single machine, it is neither a work group machine, it is neither a domain join machine. It's a normal, you can say it's a normal machine, right? So sometimes people refer to a normal machine as a work group machine as well. So it depends from terminology to terminology, but we are having a single machine, and now you create an admin. You have created a user with an admin, right? So for example, everyone knows how to create an admin, right? You have your own machine, so you create a profile. Basically, you're creating a profile. So So you create a restricted profile or you create a admin profile. Everyone is familiar with that, right? Yes, no? Guys, am I making sense? Have you ever created a profile on your Windows machine?
Yes, sir.
What is the meaning of profile? If you log on to a machine, right? When you start the machine, right? So if you have not created a profile on your machine, you can just Google it and type how to create a profile on your Windows machine, right? It will let you know. So basically, when you create a profile, you have an admin profile and you have a user profile. So an admin profile, you have a username and password, right? Now you enter the username and password. Now you have opened your machine, right? So if you see on my machine, in this particular machine, I have an Outlook. Right? I have an Outlook app. Now, whenever I start my machine, my Outlook starts. Now I have not configured my Outlook, so it will start configuring my Outlook. So this will say, okay, this is the email address you have. Now, in case my email address is different from my UPN, right? I have to make sure that I log into my Outlook separately. I log into my profile separately. Okay, that's the problem. Right now, I'm just clicking on connect, so it will use my account and connect me. So I'm using the same account for my logging to my machine, and I'm using the same account from my Outlook, or I'm using the same account for my Office 365 services. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Yes, no?
Yes, sir.
So if you see, I just type who am I. So if you type who am I on my machine, I see it is Hafiz.Khan. Hafiz Khan. This is my display name. This is my UPN or my email address. This is my alias. This is my display name. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So my UPN and my logging name, this is my prime. This is also known as my primary email address. This is my primary email address. So my primary simple mail transport protocol SMTP, that is the primary SMTP for my account is admin@teamsushafiz.on Microsoft.com. If you have seen while logging, I use the same name to the machine, right? So this is also my UPN. My display name can be different. My alias, my UPN, and my primary SMTP address is the same. The first part of my UPN becomes my alias. The second part is my domain name. If you remember, we talked about this over here. Is it clear? Any
Yes,
question
sir.
on this before we move further?
No, sir. No questions.
Yeah, guys who are from IT, I know this might be, yeah. So guys who are from IT, humble request, please adjust, because we have people on the call who might not be from IT, or who might be from IT, but may not have, may have forgotten this for XYZ reason, right? So that's the reason we are going a little slow. So we have to take care regarding all the audience on the call, right? Now let's go to email address. Now the email address structure, if you see, and the UPN structure, if you see, is it the same? Any difference in them?
Same.
Anyone? Any difference you see? So can I say my UPN and the primary SMTP address should be same?
Yes.
Yes, right? Okay. Now, why it is required? All those things is there over here. We're not going to discuss it. Now, how is that account created? Right? Now, this is how it works. So this is the UPN. If you remember, we just created a user in Active Directory, right? So when you're entering the information, a user information on the portal, on our cloud, we have created a user, right? So what happens in the backend? First part, a UPN is created, right? As we created a user account is created with a UPN. The moment we apply license to the user, that's when the mailbox is created. So email address will only be available if a user has a mailbox. Let me show you that. Have we closed that portal? Oh, no, yeah. So if you click over here, if you see account details, I can only see this information, right? If I click on license and apps, it says unlicensed. I don't have a license. Now, when I assign a license, for example, these are the types of license. We'll talk about that later on, maybe in tomorrow classes. So the moment I assign license, what are the services I'm going to get, right? If I expand this in apps, this is an EFI license, so I'll get all these things. I'll get Exchange Online Plan 2. I'll get Azure Right Protection, customer service data, customer logbox, so and so. These are the This is the things I will be getting. I will not be getting calling or for government because I'm not a government client. Again, in India, we don't get calling. So communication credit, my tenant is in US. So that's the reason I see communication over here. Microsoft Communication DLP, or sorry, not DLP. I mean to say, what's it called? MSOVE or calling plan. Over here. Communication. The common data. Scroll slowly. So basically in E5 we get calling, we get mailboxes, we get desktop version, we get online version. So we'll talk about more details in the next plan. Yeah, Microsoft Teams is there, right? So Microsoft Teams, and then I have something called calling plan. So if you see over here, Microsoft Teams domestic calling plan, Teams phone resource account, and Microsoft Power account free. So for Teams calling domestic plan, I have to buy a separate license for this. But for Teams and all those things, this license is more than enough. So I will not be creating a mailbox now. The reason being just to make yourself understand what do you have. Now, when I click on mail, means I will get properties of mailbox. Now, if you see, it says the user doesn't have any exchange online license. So if I have not licensed my user, I will not be getting mailbox. Means I will not be getting exchange services. So when we talk about exchange service is used to basically provide mailboxes to a user so that he can send and receive email. He can use calendar for sending meeting invites and blah, 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 all related with emails and calendars. So we'll talk about that in ongoing sessions. Again, OneDrive, this is another service which I have. So I don't have a license. Obviously, I don't be having OneDrive. So it says it's not set up. So it's saying me to set it up from the portal, right? Or reach out to customer support if it's not set up. Normally, with a normal account, without an email address, I don't have not seen we get an OneDrive account. Now, with this account, what features we get? We can make the changes to the user by simply going over here and changing it from domain if you want, or changing the user display name, right? Normally it is not advisable. Come back to it again. We can change, if you see view last 30 days, last signing. So if you want to see whether the user is logged in, we can see the activity from here. From actual Active Directory to let us know whether the user was able to log in or to any services or to machine. Then sign out preference. So if you want the user to sign out from all the sessions, we can just click from here. If you want to address alternate email addresses, right? Add addresses. So basically, this is the secondary SMTP address. So I'll talk about that later on. I don't want to confuse you guys. Manage groups. Again, we'll talk about this. What is manage group? Add manager or add roles. We'll talk about this. Adding roles means providing more privileges to the customer, to the user, providing more administrative tasks or administrative roles to the user so that he can perform, he can make changes to other users as well, depending on what admin roles we have given to him. We'll talk about the admin roles when we're talking about that part. So now with the user account, what you can do with the user account, you can log on to the portal like how we have logged on, but you will not be getting all this. Why? Because you are not a admin. You will be only getting user normal account. I'll show you what I mean by that. You will not be getting all this user means all this administrative tasks or administrative things which you can do because you are not an admin, right? Okay, then what other things we have for a user? Other things what we have for a user is you can reset the password. If the users are not able to log in, this is where you'll come and reset the password if it's a pure cloud user. Block sign in means the user will not be able to sign in. If you say block this user from signing, the user will not be able to sign in to his account. Then the next is delete user means the user will be deleted. Right? Any question on the user part? Are we thorough with the user? What is a user? A user is just an account for us to enter the service. Okay, now let me, okay, instead of logging off, let me create a private window. Okay. Now I'm using the account we have created now, test2 Khan. Test what test? What is test2? Okay. 1 second. I think this one we created on. I think this test2 we created on cloud on-prem, right? It's synced now. So let's take this one. Test Khan. How do I know that? If I click on test2, right? If you see the username is mhkonprem.cm. Do you see over here? Can you see my mouse pointer?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. And why I see this name over here, even though I have created an account on AD, why do I see in cloud? The reason being I'm syncing my users from on-prem to cloud. That's the reason I see this user over here. But this user is purely on cloud. If I search this user on on-prem, I will not be able to get it. Okay. Just an example. If I go over here and if I say, take some time, refresh time. Oh, have we lost control of this machine? Come on, come on. Okay, if you see, we only have test2 mkhan and test1 mkhan, right? But if you see over here on a browser, do we see test_Khan over here? You see over here, do you see test_Khan? People on the call. Are you
Yes,
still
sir.
with me?
No,
Yes.
no.
You don't see test_Khan here, right? The reason being it is pure cloud, right? The reason why you see test2 mkhan over here and over here, because this user is created on on-prem and it is synced to cloud. Is the difference clear? Is the difference clear, guys? Any question on that before we proceed? Okay. So now let's go back to our introduction. So is the difference clear? A sync user and a pure cloud user. Is the difference clear? So if a user is created on-prem and if it is synced to cloud, you will see that user in cloud, just like we see. If you created a user in cloud, right? There is no entity on-prem, you won't be seeing that user on-prem. Is that information clear? In other terms, it is known as a pure cloud user. Is that clear? Please respond, guys.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Okay, so now let's do one thing. So today we'll talk about what are the type of recipients we have and what is their meaning. Tomorrow we'll create those users. I'll share with you an article how to create a trial tenant. You just need an email address from a Yahoo or Hotmail, and you will be going. You have to just complete that text boxes so you can create your own test tenant. Okay, or if you want me to show you online, we can do that as well. Okay, so we'll not be going in these scenarios. We'll directly go to object types or different recipients we have, right? So now we talked about a user. A user is also known as a recipient. To get the detail of a user, you can write in get recipient, get user. These are PowerShell. So just like command related, right? So you have to type it. So there are two ways of working with Exchange Online. One is through graphical user interface, through the window which we just saw. Another way is through PowerShell. 60% of your work of configuring a user will be from Exchange GUI, graphical user interface, what we saw. 40% of control is through PowerShell. So you can control most of the thing through your GUI, like the window which we just saw, and 40% of the task we have to do from PowerShell. But whatever you can do from GUI, you can do that from PowerShell as well. So when I say PowerShell, just like we have Windows, right? We have this command prompt. Similarly, we have something called PowerShell. So if PowerShell is basically a connectivity tool, you can say, for running PowerShell command or for running Exchange commands. We are back here. Give me a minute, taking some time to refresh. Okay. So now we are on this type. Okay, I don't want to go in this now because these are PowerShell commands. I don't want you guys to be confused. So let us go to Microsoft side. So I would like you guys to go through this link today. The other link which I shared, you can just go through it, but don't get confused with the commands. We'll talk about those commands in tomorrow's session. Right. So today I want you guys to complete this link, okay, which I just pasted. Tomorrow I'll be asking you some queries. Now we know about a user. So when we create a user, and if it is on hybrid scenario, we'll call it as a mail user. Right. For example, a user is created on-prem, it is synced to cloud. So on cloud, when you have a user who is synced from on-prem, it is called a mail user. What is the user mailbox? If we create a mailbox for a user, right? For example, if you remember your email ID, right? So when you have an email ID, it means you have a mailbox somewhere on that side. If you have an email address for hotmail.com, you will have a mailbox on hotmail.com. If it is yahoo.com, you will have a user mailbox on yahoo.com. So to understand or to make things simple, whenever you say user mailbox, it means you have a mailbox. The user has a mailbox. It's not just a user. So whenever you have a mailbox, to connect to the mailbox, you are using your email address. Is that clear? Anyone have any questions regarding this? So I would like each one of you to go through this article today after this session. Guys, is it okay if we continue for another 5-10 minutes? Or you have a hard stop at 1? Yes, no, maybe. Are we good to continue for another 10-15 minutes?
Yeah, no issues for us.
Okay. So user is clear, right? So user mailbox is something wherein you create a mailbox, you have an email ID, right? Then what is the shared mailbox? Shared mailbox is like, it's a mailbox with a user account disabled, but other users who have mailbox can send and receive email for it. So basically you are adding that mailbox into your profile. So whenever someone sends an email, the shared mailbox do have a primary SMTP address. You can send an email from a shared mailbox, even though you're not logging to it because the account is disabled, but you have been provided sender's permission or send on behalf permission. Because of this permission, you are able to send emails from this shared mailbox. And whenever what is the use of shared mailbox? So that it's a common mailbox which is available for everyone. So if anyone sends the email to this mailbox, you will be able to know, or you will be able to get an email. It's like if you want to send an email to Hafiz, right? You will need my email address. But when you're sending an email to me, only I'll be getting that email, right? Samir Bhai or anyone on the call, they will not be getting that email. But if we are sending an email to shared mailbox, and if all of you have access to that shared mailbox, in fact, in what I mean by access, if you have permission on that shared mailbox, then in that scenario, if anyone sends an email to the shared mailbox, all the members of that shared mailbox who has permission on the shared mailbox will get that email. Is that clear? Is that clear, guys? Okay. So mail contact. So what is a mail contact? A mail, for example, you want to give access to some person who is outside your organization. And for example, you have a portal. Now you want someone so who can be able to share your info. For example, he should be able to see who are the users in your organization so that he can send meeting invites, right? In that scenario, you need to create a mail contact. So he will be having external email address added to that mail contact so that he can send meeting invites and he will be able to join the meetings. Right? We'll talk about how to create that in the data session. I want each one of you to go through it. And a mail user, as I mentioned, it's just like a similar to a mail contact, but it is like something who just have a user account. He doesn't have a mailbox. But you can assign permission to the mail user so that he can log in to your services. A mail contact cannot use your resources, but a mail user can use your resources. Now, what is the resources? Just like, for example, when you say, okay, I want to travel from one place to another. So what is the resource you have, right? Just like you say, okay, how are you going to travel? You're going to travel by your bike, or you're going to travel by auto, or by your car, or going to use Ola, whatever, XYZ. So that is a resource you're going to use to reach the destination, right? Similarly, in resource in Exchange Online or in IT world is something which we are going to use to get the desired result, right? For example, resource mailbox. For what is a resource mailbox? Basically, for example, you have meeting rooms, right? So now in an organization, there will be a separate room which might be used for meeting. It is not used for a particular individual. It is not a property, or it's not a cabin. It's basically a room, right? It is just used for meeting. So now, for example, consider you have a guest room in your house, for example, right? So if you have 5 guests coming in, one guest is already inside, right? The second guest who's coming in may never know he's inside or not unless he knocks the door or see the door locked, right? But he had a emergency. He wanted some privacy and wanted to use that guest room. So he will not know when the room is available, when the room is not available. But if he has some access, like he has a UPN or email address, right? In other terms, if something is written on the room outside, right? A table like, okay, Monday this person will come, Tuesday this person will use, Thursday this person will use. All right. So if you want to look for that information, you have to come out of your cabin. You have to go to that room and, okay, what is the table over here? When is the room available? When is the room not available? That information you can't get from your door, right? From your cabin. That room may be on the second building. It may be around 500 meters from you, or it may be on the same floor. But again, you have to go and check again and again, right? Or people have to make a note over there. Okay, 10:30 to 5:30, this person will be there. 5:30 to 6:30, this person will be there. So make work easy. What we do, we create a room mailbox. We assign email address to that room mailbox, right? Or basically a UPN. It doesn't have a mailbox, but it is having a UPN. It has a physical mailbox which you can't log in. Okay, it has an account just like a disabled account, just like a shared mailbox. So it will be getting a mailbox, but it will not be a user mailbox. It will be known as a room mailbox. It cannot be used for like a shared mailbox where you send an email and you get an email on your box, right? It's something to book the room. So you use that room mailbox information on your calendar to see, okay, what is the availability, right? And you send an email. Okay, I want this room from this time to this time. So the room mailbox will check, is that room booked at this time? If it is booked, it will decline. If it is not booked, you will say, okay, meeting accepted, and you will get a reminder saying an email, okay, you can have a meeting. In short, it lets you know that you can have a meeting now on this room mailbox. So there are certain configurations for a room mailbox, like you can control how many concurrent meeting you can have, or how many conflicts you can have, how whether you should be getting a reminder from a room mailbox, whether you can if it's accepted your meeting or not, and how many duration of meeting do you have, right? That is called a room mailbox. Any question on that? So basically it's a room, just it has a mailbox attached to it, so that you from your desk itself you can know whether the room is available or not, in simple terms. Is it clear? Okay. Then we have equipment mailbox. So for example, you have multiple rooms, right? In one room, you may be having a projector. In another room, you may be having a big screen, and you may be having audio video conferencing services. So any device which you're going to use in that room become an equipment mailbox, right? For example, room number 1 has a projector as well and has a multimedia system as well. So when you're booking a room, by default, you'll be getting this feature, but you have to tick them as well. I want this. In some scenario, what happens is you have a room mailbox, but the equipment are not there. You have to select that. For example, 2 rooms are there, but none of the room you have any equipment. You don't have video or audio conferencing service. You don't have a projector. You don't have a multimedia screen. So in that scenario, you will also book an equipment mailbox. It's just like a room mailbox. You have to say, okay, on Monday, I want this projector from this to this time. So that information, if the room equipment is booked, it will let you know, okay, this equipment is booked. You won't be able to use it. Okay, this is the time it is free. Okay, and then accordingly, you can book the equipment mailbox. Is it clear? Yes, no? You want me to clear that? Okay, guys, I think we'll stop here. I think everyone is hungry now. So tomorrow we'll create a mailbox, right? We'll talk about room mailbox, equipment mailbox. We'll create a share mailbox, mail contact, mail user. Then we'll talk about distribution group, dynamic distribution group, and mail enable groups and Office 365 groups. If anyone have any suggestion, like if you feel that the way we are progressing, you're not able to get it, or if you have a better plan on how we should proceed, do feel free to let us know. We can adapt to that technology. My goal is to make sure that you guys are getting it. Right? If you're not able to get it, please do let me know. Please, while coming to tomorrow's call, please go through this article which I shared with you. It's very important so that when I'm speaking, it's making sense. Are we good, guys? Have everyone got the link? Guys, pick up. That this way it will be very difficult for me to continue. I need someone to respond. Okay, I need some attempts, some efforts from you guys as well. I can only explain, but if you guys are not able to understand, or if you don't put your effort, it wastes of both our time, my time as well as your time. Time is money. So if you are able to get it, let me know. If you're not able to get it, let me know. If you want me to explain again, in a nutshell, in 10 minutes, I can summarize what we have discussed today. If not, we are good to go for today. You can go through this link, and tomorrow we'll further continue from where we left. Are you still there on the call, or you guys have left?